Believers, I want you to understand the following. When you were a child, you had no options. I repeat that because it's quite important. As an adult, you have options. So something you went through as an adult has a different effect on you than when you were a child. That's why when you're an adult, often you need to process a lot of what happened when you were a child, whether good or bad. You have to process both good things as well as bad stuff. Not everything that happened was bad, but you need to process all of them. So that's why it's very important for you to realize that the individual who had an option was obliged to do what's best. If those that had a leverage and therefore more options than you enabled outcomes on you that they would have never wanted to happen to themselves, but for some reason they consider it okay to empower those outcomes to happen to you, such people are narcissistic. Or they may be full-blown narcissists. Straight up. Now let me give a parable example. Let's say that you were kicked out of your parents' house when you were 14 years old. There was some argument with your parents and they kicked you out of the house. And they never took you back in. Now eventually, you stayed with friends, you stayed at various places, you were homeless for a few months, and you're on track, you finished college, you have your job, you're married now, so everything turned out well. And suddenly your parents want to come into your life again. But you say, no. You're 30 now, and they kicked you out when you were 14. And now that everything's on track in your life, suddenly they want to come in, pretending as if nothing ever happened. Not even addressing the incident, not even addressing their neglect, nor how it affected you. You just have to forget about the past 16 years just so they don't have to face themselves. So they want to be seen as the good parents or as a grandparents because you have children now. So they want to have the benefits of being the great grandparents without actually being that great. So you go to a therapist to process what happened because you need help. You acknowledge you can't do it on your own. And then after a few sessions, the therapist tells you, let's say your name is John. Your parents had no good reason whatsoever to kick you out of the house when you just turned 14. You just turned 14 for 2 days. Your parents had marriage issues and they took it out on you. That's cowardly of them. But John, there's another thing you need to realize. Your parents were not alone in this. And then John thinks, what do you mean, sir? Then therapist tells you, John, you just turned 14. Your parents were far older than you, obviously, because they're your parents. Where were your aunts? Where were your uncles? Where were your grandparents back then? Where were the friends of your parents? Where was the neighborhood? Where were the authorities? Where were all the people when your parents were out of line? Why didn't the community take action against your parents when your parents endangered you? And here's another thing, John. Your other siblings were smaller back then, so for them it was shocking. But when they became older and they realized what their parents did to you, they should have left those people alone. Why did your siblings keep contact with your parents? They were children back then. One was 7 years old, the other was 8, another one was 11. So even though they were kids still, they could see it's wrong that your parents are out of line. And once they became of age, approaching their 20s, they should have realized our parents are out of line. Our older brother was kicked out of the home for no justifiable reason. So our parents are out of their minds. And our parents wanted to be at ease with one another at our brother's expense. So those other siblings of yours, they enabled the scapegoating of you to be in good favor with your parents. John, it isn't just your parents that committed a crime. The whole community is guilty. The whole community is involved in it. And then John was thinking, whoa, there's a lot to sink in. Then therapist said another thing. Why do your siblings pressure you to make it up with your parents? They say things as well, they're still our parents, you only have one mom and one dad. Once they're gone, you can't take back time. But here's the thing, John, why didn't your parents think that way? Where was the remorse of your parents when they kicked you out? Oh, now that your father has a sickness and your mother is likely to become a widow if your father passes away? Oh, now that they have financial issues? Oh, now that there are grandchildren involved? Oh, now they know that you exist. Now they remember that they have mortal bodies and you too, and that you can't take back time. Why didn't they think about that all those years ago, how it affected you? Why is it that it is only you that has to consider others? When was the time others considered you? And John was thinking, whoa, it was a lot for John to take in. But John thanked the therapist, and afterwards, John broke all contact with his relatives permanently. And after he did that, he had more ease and rest in his life. And realized the timing that it was right when things were going well with him that his relatives popped up again. So, what's going on here? The parents were narcissists. The children that grew up after John also turned into narcissists because they agreed with the parents even though they knew very well the parents were out of line. They got along with the relief seeking of the parents at the expense of their older brother, and the environment was narcissistic by enabling those people. So it's a whole community that committed a crime here, not just two people. And when John remembered the argument, even if John was wrong by using bad language, or John may not have raised his voice when he was 14, that's no reason for you as an adult to harm your child's future just to validate yourself. And John also remembered that it was his father that initiated the fight by calling him dirty names. So you have an adult seeking an argument with a child just to act out their frustration. And when the child resists, which the child should do, or the teenager should do, because the teenager is overwhelmed thinking, whoa, why are you coming on me like that? And the father is about to become physical, so they kick him out. So the father could even control his own anger, and he blamed the son for it. And he had no intention of working on his anger issues. So the more John processed it, John realized, no, hold on a minute. These are just bad people. And why did the community enable these bad people? And John also remembered another thing. When he was kicked out of the house and he was on the streets, there were times he shoplifted, did whatever he could to survive. Because he couldn't stay at friends forever and people just refused to help him. And then John realized, but hold on a minute. So I need to consider the community by not stealing, by not infringing on others' property and all of that. So why is it that society is entitled to my cooperation, but I'm not entitled to assistance nor any help from society? So John began to think, hold on a minute, what is that? So John saw the bigger picture, and seeing the bigger picture brought him to healing. And that's a reason why many people don't heal, because they don't see the bigger picture. If you don't see the bigger picture, you can't process what happened. Some people are stuck because there were some good moments with certain people, and that's why they think, well, those people are not that bad because there were good moments. Listen, a demon that helps you out is still a demon. Even if what the demon did was a good thing for you at the time, it's still a demon. Demons will do good things from time to time to cover up the fact that they are fallen, creepy beings that want to drag people to the lake of fire. They're still demons, they still agree with Satan, they still are going to the lake of fire and still want to drag as many people in their pity party as possible, but from time to time they will do good things to cover themselves, to pretend as if they are the opposite. But that's demons. Now, when it comes to human beings, understand the following: bad people do good things from time to time, but it doesn't mean they're good people. It doesn't mean they're trustworthy. It doesn't mean that you should reconcile with them. I mentioned this before. If there's no compliance with justice, there then means that there shouldn't be any amnesty. There's only amnesty when there's compliance with justice. No compliance with justice, no amnesty. That's how it ought to be. And the example I gave about this, John, think about such things for yourself. Look, let's say I'm 12 years old, okay? And I see how a fellow 12-year-old is abused openly and other people allow it to happen. What do you think I'm going to do? When I'm a bit older, those other people who allowed it to happen who didn't intervene, and those same people were so selfish that they didn't even give aid to the one that was wounded, they even began to abuse him and attack him for having mental issues, that for what happened to him, I think it happened to him that others enabled. If I see this going on, those people that enabled it and began to attack the victim, I'm going to avoid them. I don't want anything to do with them. What happens in the world? If you're the one victimized and you're the one wounded, the community is likely to enable it. And later, when the effects that it has on you begin to escalate, they will blame you and people will hate on you. Why? Because to hate on you means they don't have to take responsibility for the fact that they either allowed it to happen or that they are still involved with enablers. Because if they want to comply with justice, they would have to sever ties with enablers. Because those enablers are dangerous people. But the fact that they don't want to admit that the enablers are dangerous people means that they are now compliant with the crime. And they don't want to fix that about themselves. They have the need to be approved, just like every other human being, and they want to be approved of without actually being good. So they don't want to be good, but they want to be perceived as good. But they can't be perceived as good if it's obvious that they are enabling enablers of evil. So, to avoid this conflict internally, they blame the victim. Look, I don't care how dysfunctional an adult is. And people say, well, you're an adult. Yes, as an adult, you have options, you have responsibility to look for help and all of that, but nobody ends up messed up just like that. So if I see people who only complain about how messed up someone is, but they don't even want to contribute to someone's recovery, nor to contribute to a better climate for people to heal in general, I'm going to avoid such people. I'm going to lower contact. I'm going to make myself less available to such folks. You know why? Because they have shown what they are. Narcissistic, just want to benefit, no obligations. The only reason they do good things from time to time is because they can't get away being nasty and selfish 24/7. Look, with narcissists, it's like this. If they can't get away with killing you, they will apologize, they will do some good things for you from time to time, and then you think, whoa, there's a change. No. Over time, they go back to the default state of dumping on you and exploiting you. Because they never intended to change and become better. With society, it's the same thing. When you point out the neglect of society openly, it's going to be a big embarrassment for the people. They're going to lose face with their children, with their spouses, on their jobs. And this is going to lead to a loss of social trust. And when a community lacks social trust, more domestic violence and crime is likely to happen. So because people can't shut you up, because first they will blame you and tell you to shut up, but if they won't shut up and they have to face the fact, they will acknowledge what happened to you, they will apologize, and they will give some compensation to you in the form of money or in the form of validation, but eventually that society will turn to its default state of blaming you. Why? Because they never intended to do what's right. They never intended to be good to begin with. They just want to use the good or get the good out of others, including the Most High, but they don't want to be good to themselves. So ask yourself the question, where was society? That same society that has laws and regulation and expectations concerning you, and you're not even allowed to have an option whether or not you want to get along with those things, because if you don't get along with the expectations of society, you end up in prison or you end up on the streets because because you can't get a job or anything like that, so you die. So you are in danger when you don't comply with society's expectations. So why is that same society entitled to your cooperation 24/7 unconditionally? Come on now. And society is a construct that's enacted by the public. So eventually, it's the individual people that enact society that demand these things from you. Who are they can demand from you unconditionally without any traffic from their side towards you? The traffic that they do give you is when you don't give in, and then they punish you with affliction or with death. That's why the world hated Christ, because Christ showed them how bad they were, and Christ showed them, in case they were evil, how evil they were. And Christ granted them no excuse, and Christ forced them to face themselves. And face themselves implies that they either change for the better or they resist the light, and their resistance will ruin them completely. That's why they hated Christ. And they'll hate you too, believer. So, where was society? Ask yourself that. Be at peace.